Good morning. Welcome to Mobile Metron, coming to you live from the Metron Live studio on Sunday, August the 16th. And glad that you're all here. Hope everybody's had a good week. And those of you who are logged on, welcome. And it's a beautiful day. It's hot, but beautiful. And you're always welcome to be here. Well, not always. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, I would prefer not. But anyway, let's officially get started. Spirit of God, we are aware that we're constantly in your presence. Where can we go? Where can we go from your presence? You know our down sitting and our uprising. There's not a word in our mouth that you don't know altogether. You know our down sitting and our uprising. We thank you for this day and for what happens when 2 or more people come into a geographical location and touch a thing. It becomes a threefold cord. And we bless all the people who are watching this live, but also all the people who are here today. And we set into motion and believe that something unprecedented happens today, something beautiful, something significant, something powerful. And we thank you for it in your name. Amen. Let me just remind you that we got Meditation Weekend number 30 coming up October 17th and 18th. We're going to beautiful Blairsville, Georgia. It's going to be nice. It's always beautiful in the fall up there. And we have a lot of history in Blairsville, and we love it up there. So it's one of the remaining North Georgia towns we haven't gone to in the fall. So I hope you will make your plans to be there. If you want to be there, scroll up to my cover photo on the Facebook page. I know we're on YouTube right now, but on the Facebook page, and the information is there in the copy. All right. We haven't been here in a couple of weeks. Last week, what was that? Oh, I was pouring a new driveway last week, and it turned out good, didn't it? I'm very happy with it, and we just now started driving on it on Friday, so so far so good. And the week before that, we were in Tybee Island, and so we're here now, and I'm glad you remembered how to get here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I did start a series last week, and so I'm going to continue in that vein. So I speak into this atmosphere and say, let there be light. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from the Metron Live studio. As always, we appreciate Charles McFall, the rock god of podcasting. Charles. And studio people, would you let the podcast people know that we're glad they're listening wherever they are. So last week, the series that I started, it's called, the actual title is The Healing Word. Everything is energy and we're all connected. I'm taking this specifically from I believe it's Psalm 107, verse 20, that says he sent his word and healed them. And I want to zero in on that, the whole concept of distance healing, but I want to take it a little bit further than that as well. There's a story, it's Matthew chapter 8, and I refer to it a lot, and as much as I've taught on it, I keep finding something in there that I didn't notice before. But it's the only time, Jesus spent a whole lot of his time in the Gospels rebuking people for their lack of faith. In this particular case, he says something, in my mind, it's the only time he ever said it, that he marveled at a man's faith. He was usually marveling at people's stupidity and doubt and unbelief, especially, dear Lord, his staff. If you worked for Jesus, you better have a thick skin, because he just was hammering those guys all the time. But this one man, the centurion, the Roman centurion, he comes to Jesus, and I suppose this is one of the reasons I have an affinity for this story, because it is a story about a man in a relationship with another man, but that's not really the main point of the story. And I thought of something today, just this morning when I was meditating on it. I thought of something that I don't think I've thought of this before, and I want to bring up this angle of it. It's, he says, speak a word only, and the Greek word is pais. It means the younger man that I'm in a relationship with. And they were living together, because he said, Jesus said, I'll come to your house. And the man says, no, I'm not worthy that you come under my roof. So clearly, it was a relationship in which they were living together. Back then, people wouldn't have identified as gay, straight, bi, whatever. But the fact is, this man was in a relationship with another man, and Jesus knew it. The reason I'm bringing that up right now, what's that got to do with the healing word? Well, when he says, speak a word only and my servant will be healed, he says, I'm a man under authority, and I say to this one, go, and he goes. I say to this one, come, and he comes. And he said, if you'll speak to your words will do for you what my 100 men, that's what a centurion meant. He had 100 men in his regiment. He said, your words will obey you like my servants obey me, or my soldiers obey me. And Jesus was blown away by it. He said, that's the greatest faith I found in Israel, which his disciples took issue with. They said, excuse me, we left everything we have to follow you. We might have a little great faith. And what Jesus was saying is, this man, for whatever reason, was able to grasp this abstract concept. The part that I don't know why I've never connected these dots before, but I think this may be important, and it may be a rhema word for you today. It's a simple thing, but I was thinking, why did the man say, speak a word only? And it's because he said, I'm not worthy that you come under my roof. I've probably said that 10 million times, but here's the point. Many times your personal situation, your personal insecurities, your personal rejections, your personal survival mode actually will trigger revelation. Just bear with me on this. The fact that he says, I'm not worthy that you come under my roof. This man, I doubt, was feeling a sense of unworthiness. He was saying, according to the way you would see things from Moses' law, my home situation is probably inappropriate. So, you know what it kind of reminds me of? It's that story in the faith chapter, Hebrews 11, where it says Noah, moved by fear, walked in faith. What I want you to hear today is sometimes the negative triggers the positive. Yes. You hear me? Yep. So you say, wow, this man had such great revelation. And say, speak a word only. And Jesus said, nobody's ever grasped this concept before. Well, he kind of had no choice but to grasp this concept, because he said, I'm not worthy that you come lay hands on my boyfriend, because I know you might not be cool with that. So speak a word only. I don't know. This is just a part of the story I've never considered before. But sometimes, I've even said this before, sometimes the worst thing that ever happened to you may be the best thing that ever happened to you. I've also said an impossible situation is actually an advantage, because you have no alternative but to believe for a miracle. I mean, when all you can get is a miracle, you have to get a miracle. There really isn't a plan B. And I know I've talked all about plan A plus lately, but I'm saying just in the natural realm, this man it's like he was forced into that revelation because of the awkwardness of his situation. I don't know. Maybe that's just a word for me, but it's like all things work together. Now, here's where I want to bring it today, because when I started this last week, I talked about distance healing, and when somebody says, I'm standing on the word and praying for you, and by stripes I'm healed, and somebody else says, I'm sending healing energy, it's tomato. It's all the same thing. The healing comes from the fact that somebody you have a connection with is thinking about you, sending energy toward you, thoughts toward you. It's more about the human connection than it is even about God. Rhonda, it's kind of what you just said to me about that.
And I'm serious about it now.
But do you understand? It's interesting that you.
After service,
But you brought that up.
Yes.
You were saying you wanted me he wanted me specifically. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Glory to God. It's all in
I mean, that's a confirmation to what I'm talking about. So when somebody says, like, this was a while back, and I'm trying to tone this kind of retort now, but someone was sick, and I said, I'm sending good vibes and good thoughts to you. And they came back with, don't give me any of that new age nonsense. I need you to stand on the word. Don't send me healing energy. So I said, okay, I send you negative energy and and believe for something negative to happen. Go, no, don't do that. Well, then you were poo-pooing it, saying there was nothing to that, and now you're like, no, don't do that. So that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. The healing is lateral. It's not that horizontal beam on the cross is just as important as that vertical beam. What does Jesus say? And the second commandment is like unto it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. The loving your neighbor is not optional. It's just as important. It's the relationships in your life that reveal the Christ to you. That's why sometimes when some people say they're praying for me, I'm like, okay, what exactly are you praying? Because I'm not sure I want, there's some people I'm like, just keep your weird juju to yourself. I don't know. I'm not sure I want, because I'm going to tell you something. A lot of what we have called prayer in the past is control and manipulation.
Yes.
I would even go so far. Would you give me some water? I would even go so far as to say witchcraft, because it's you're not praying the will of God. You're saying, I want your situation to conform to what I think is best case scenario. I mean, I've encountered a lot of couples over the years whose relationships were on the rocks. I don't always pray that they get back together. It might not be the best thing for them. Oh no, God hates divorce. Yeah, you know who else hates divorce? People who've been through divorces. Divorce sucks. Still doesn't mean it might not be the right option for that person. And that's why even, like, back in the day, I would always teach this, specifically talking about praying in the Spirit, but I think it has a bigger meaning where Paul says we know not what to pray for as we ought. That's really true. What you think is the right thing for somebody, that's why even when I go visit somebody who's in ICU or whatever, I will always ask them, what exactly do you want? Because if they're ready to check out, they've made peace with it, I don't need to be, complicating the airwaves. That's the importance of agreement. It's like, all right, then what exactly are we wanting? If you've already signed up for the surgery and you've already made plans for it, I don't need to be standing in faith that you're not going to have the surgery. Because especially if I've got strong energy, and I'm just telling you, some people have stronger energy than others. They just do. I'm not saying God loves some people more than others, but and especially the people in your life. They've, a lot of times, for better for worse, they've got the strongest energy. So this whole thing about everything is energy, I'm very interested in that. I'm going to, just 3 things I'm going to share with you really quickly. First of all, there's a famous quote that gets attributed to Einstein a lot. Einstein didn't actually say it. The famous quote, everything is energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. This quote is frequently misattributed to Albert Einstein, but it was actually written by author and channeler Darryl Anka. The reason I wanted to bring that up is, and just hear this with your spirit. When you perceive the universe through the paradigm of the knowledge of good, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, everything is binary. Everything is either or. Everything goes in 1 or 2 columns. When you see everything through the lens of the tree of life, you have to be discerning, because in the tree of life, everything is everything. In that the heroes in your life are not perfect. They are heroic. The villains in your life are not demons. They're people with unresolved issues. Nobody's completely good. Nobody's completely bad. There's no situation that's completely good. There's no situation that's completely bad. And really only mature people can understand that. Because again, the negative things sometimes are catalysts for the positive things. But if you can't see beyond the negative, it just collapses into your reality as a curse. For the joy that was set before him, Jesus endured the cross. Do you understand? And it doesn't mean the cross isn't painful. It doesn't mean you like the cross. If there's any way, let this cup pass from me. However, I have prophesied resurrection on the other side of it. Still doesn't mean I like the cross. Right? So with that, the reason I'm saying that about everything is energy, I don't think anything's absolutely true and anything's absolutely untrue. Just hear me out on this. Like when we talk about energy and law of attraction and power of intention, like so much of it is just absolutely true. Absolutely. But then there's other things where I think, well, all those people that sunk on the Titanic in 1912, I don't think they were sending out negative vibes to hit a... So you can't just say, this is what always happens. No, you find the truth in it, and then there's some things that will always stay mystical to you. There's some things that you still don't understand. You know, I refer to this lyric a lot, but in that Mahalia Jackson song where she says, how I got over, my soul looks back in wonder. The thing is, looking back in wonder can mess with you. You know, it's like when that 18-wheeler on 285 cuts you off and you're delivered, but you also need to go change your underwear. Right? It's like, yes, I thank you, Jesus, but that just scared the pure hell out of me. And yeah, it's great to have a testimony, but dear Lord, I gotta go check my blood pressure. So that's I don't even want to call it the downside. It's just the reality to the tree of life. The tree of life is just embracing everything. It's not seeing the good versus the bad. You don't automatically assume that some challenge, like the whole thing about always needing a devil to blame, it's so immature. It's so... You know when you've put away childish things when you stop blaming everything for what's outside of you. This week, and I'm not even recommending this, but because of there's some things, if there's a documentary on Hitler, I usually will end up watching it again. I know it's negative, but I am interested in that. I am interested in the Vietnam War. There's some things that are I have to be in a particular mood for it, but there's a new documentary that just came out. I think it was either Netflix or Hulu, but it was on Charles Manson, and there's nothing about that story I don't know. I remember when it happened and all, but this documentary is based on new tapes that have come out of interviews with him and other people in the Manson family. So I got pulled into it, and it was I don't know if y'all deal with this way. I had a very intense week, extremely intense. And sometimes watching funny stuff makes me feel better. There's other times I'm like, no, you know what? I want to be dark. Yeah. In some kind of weird way, it makes me feel better. I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for this all the time. But right now, like, yeah, a documentary on Charles Manson, that sounds about right. So, but what I noticed about it that I really had never, I guess I hadn't heard these things that he had personally said. And when you look, he was like this little imp of a guy, like they were showing him walking into the courtroom between these two officers, and he's like so insignificant that you think that's the guy that got these people to do these terrible things. It's like, how is that possible? It reminded me of that scripture in Isaiah 14 that a lot of people think is talking about the devil. It's really talking about a king. But it says that they will all look narrowly upon him and say, is this the one? Is this the one that deceived the whole world? There's just... But so anyway, I'm just looking at him like, how... And these young girls that just... they lost their entire lives for him. Right. They're all women older than me now, and they've been in prison their entire life for this idiot that, talked him into doing something insane. And they can't get out. You're like, I hope y'all enjoyed that. It's like, but anyway, this is what I'd never noticed before. In every interview with him, they would say, do you feel any regret about, even though he didn't specifically do the murders, he made it happen. And they were completely beholden to him. If you don't know who you are, you're very subject to cult energy. So in every one of these, he would say, no, I don't feel anything. And he would go through, I was in reform school, I was beaten, I was sodomized, he would go through this litany of, I'm just mad at the world. So, yeah, that's their problem that they got brutally murdered. Because, I just had never heard that before. And I thought, man, that's the importance of letting some stuff go. Because when you keep collecting offenses, it makes you crazy after a while. And in every one of these, he was like, no, I got society back because of what society did to me. Now, if you were the one that got horrifically murdered, you'd want to say, I didn't do that. I wasn't in reform school. I didn't beat you. But that, in his mind, it was all the same. All y'all are horrible, so I'm going to do something horrible to all y'all. And I don't know, it was just a very sobering reminder of why you got to own your own stuff and not blame everything. Now, having said that, is the stuff about thoughts and all that stuff, is it true? Yes. Is it completely true? I don't know. I can think of some exceptions. I'm going to quote this guy. I don't know if you heard this guy's name's Charles McFall. This is a quote by him that was in a text I got from him earlier this week. In the text, he sends me a meme that's something that I've used before. I've quoted this before. I've used it in my devotionals. But it says, every thought I think is creating my future. I've heard that. Okay, good reminder. But he says, this came across my motivational app yesterday, It is as freeing as it is terrifying. And I completely understood what he was saying, particularly the day that I got this text. He says, living without intent is scary, and it's hard work to always be intentional. Yes, it is. So you can know the concept, and you can say, yeah, all right, my thoughts are creating my future. What am I supposed to do? Like turn my brain off? Right. I can't help that the thoughts are there. What's that got to do with everything is energy and the healing word? Because of this. So this is another quote, and I feel like I've quoted this Abraham Hicks a lot lately. It just is what it is. But this feels true to me, but I want to say it with maybe a caveat or I want to frame it a certain way. And here's the quote. The universe does not know whether the vibration that you're offering is because of something you're observing or something you're remembering or something that you are imagining, which really that covers past, present, and future. It just receives the vibration and answers it with things that match it. Now, there's something about that feels probably 90% true to me. I'm like, you know what? That probably is true. Like it's always baffled me, like how do victims of, and this isn't true for everybody, but how do some victims of child abuse grow up and become abusers? That's always been shocking to me, because I would think, because I was never, at least not physically or sexually abused. So in my mind, I would think, well, if that had happened to me, I would be so intent to make sure I didn't continue that to the next generation. But if this is true, that what you think about has a vibrational match, then I think, well, I could see how that could happen then. If you don't let a thought go, if you don't process it, if you don't forgive it, the thought that should be in the past stays in the present. That's why Joe Dispenza says when you remember a negative thing or even talk about a negative thing that happened to you, your body doesn't realize that it's not happening right now. So you're making yourself relive it. That's why you can tell about a sad thing that happened to you and get choked up and cry about it. Why? Because suddenly you've time traveled and you're back in the past. Now, here's the dilemma, if you will. How in the world do you possibly always live in the now? How is, because how can you not project into the future? It's the most natural thing in the world to say, I don't know how that's going to work out. Even if it doesn't, if the needle doesn't all the way go over into fear, at least it's enough of saying, this is just an unknown. I don't know how this is going to be resolved. That's why I just love the idea of just believe everything will work out. Because if you try to micromanage how it's going to, I'm going to tell you something about life. Life will throw you some curves. And it will work out. And it sometimes, many times, that A+ thing happens. And it works out even better than you thought. But baby, that process, let me tell you something about process. Process will take something out of you. That's why we have to be patient with each other, because you don't know what somebody else is processing that they can't even fully, they couldn't even explain to you. I think you said Howie streaming, and I know I refer to Howie a lot, but I talk to him a lot. And we talk about movies a lot. He's doing a thing right now where he's going through the AFI Top 100 movies, and he said, I'm watching all these movies, not necessarily because I'm going to like them, I just want to be educated. I said, well, I respect that. So we're always, sometimes he'll text me, like there'll be one, like I was telling him the other day, I said, I know you're supposed to like On the River, on the Waterfront, but I can't ever get into that one. I know all the cinephiles say it's a masterpiece, it's a classic. I love other Elia Kazan movies, but that one, I can't get into it. I like Marlon Brando, whatever. So he'd watched it, and he texted. He said, "I actually liked it." So we sometimes we'll I'll call him and we'll argue about a movie. And there's some things I'm like, if you don't like this movie, we can't be friends anymore. And then there's other movies, and I never liked that one, but I'll reconsider it. And like he had texted me the other day about there's a movie about when FDR got polio. I forgot, I can't remember the name of it. And I thought, I hadn't watched that in a long time. And so I rewatched it. I thought, actually, that was pretty good. Thanks for reminding me of that. So a lot of times we'll talk about that. But you know when somebody knows you really well, you can talk to them and you're not really talking about the thing that you're talking about.
Right.
I don't know if y'all have a relationship like that in your life. Because I intentionally did not call him this week because I thought, I'm not unloading on him. I'm just not going to do it. I'm working out my own stuff. So there's something else he was watching. I told him to watch The Incredible Shrinking Man, and he kind of didn't like it. But you know, those are fine. I mean, we both agreed on Bonnie and Clyde. We both love Bonnie and Clyde. Okay, we get that one. I'll renew the lease on the friendship. But I called him to talk about the movie. And he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, but I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about On the Waterfront." Because it's my way of saying, I need some energy from you. I don't necessarily need it to be specific because I just don't want to go there right now. And if I wanted to, he would indulge me. But it wasn't about the words. It's like, on occasion, I've had people call me, people in my life who have said, "There's nothing wrong, I just need to hear your voice." Now, some people would hear that and say, "Well, you're in a cult." Like, I can see why somebody would think that. But I also know there are certain people in your life. Sometimes I've said this before, sometimes even talking to Ken about something, when he'll just simply say, "It's going to be okay, it's going to work out," then I'm like, that's a very simple thing. That's not a prophetic word, but it's because he said it, and I think, all right, you know what? It is. I should know this without needing confirmation because I'm really good at teaching this. Again, I say unto you, just because you have a gift to teach it doesn't mean you have a gift to live it.
That's right.
If anything, once you teach it, then your life becomes the laboratory for it. Mm-hmm. And you have to work it out. It's not the devil trying you, it's your own revelation trying it. What's that scripture? It's somewhere, I think it's in the Psalms, and it talks about Joseph. It's one of the most interesting verses of scripture. And he says, because Joseph had been given these incredible prophecies and these dreams, and everything in his life was going just the opposite direction. You know, and it literally says the word of the Lord tormented him, and it says he wasn't just in fetters of iron, his soul was in fetters of iron. And I understand that when you have this ideal of this is what's supposed to be happening, but this is what is happening, and I'm trying to not be moved by what I see and call those things which are not as though they are, but I'm living in the real world. I mean, Jesus says to Mary, he says, "I am the resurrection and the life," before he raises Lazarus from the dead. But right before that, he has this real emotional trauma where he groans in the spirit because he's in between these two polarities. I'm about to raise this man from the dead, but also this is my friend that's dead, and I'm feeling all these emotions and all that. I'm saying all that to say this. You need people in your life. You need connections in your life. Relationships are worth salvaging. Relationships are worth doing the hard work on. Sometimes a healing word is even a difficult word. When somebody tells you the truth about something that you don't want to hear, and you say, okay, ouch. It's very much like, I don't want that nurse to give me that shot, and that hurts. when I try to go as rarely as possible. The surgeon's wanting to do this shoulder now. They did this one 3 years ago, and I don't want to go through that again. So I go through these cortisone shots. I don't know if you've ever had a cortisone shot. Sweet mother. And I like, I at least I can face away from him. I never take my shirt off. I always have like a tank top on. I just do like a stripper. I was like, drop one shoulder, and he knows I'm dreading it. So he's like making jokes and stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're funny, Dr. Littleton. And then as he said, I'm like, hey, ho, wowza. Hey, that one really smart, really good. That one hurts worse than the pain of the shoulder. It's like that actually took my mind off the pain, because that was so much worse than what I was feeling 10 minutes ago. But ideally, a couple of days later, it does start feeling better. And I think, okay, well, that did bide me some time. So, a healing word sometimes is an uncomfortable word. It's a challenging word. It may not be, oh, you're doing so great. That word may be, you need to do better. A healing word sometimes makes you want to defend yourself. And sometimes you just have to be like Jesus, led dumb before the slaughter, and say, all right, say your piece, because this medicine is difficult to swallow, but in the big picture, it will make me healthier, and it will make our relationship healthier. And the healthier your relationships are, I believe, the healthier you are. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to be brief, but and once the camera goes off, we'll discuss it a little bit. But I do want to speak a healing word to everyone who's here today. And if you're wanting me to anoint that, I will. When we officially close, I'll anoint that covering. But I just want to say to you, hang on and keep staying open and get outside of yourself and let people speak into your life and nourish and nurture your relationship, because you never know when you're going to need that person. That's why you need to let stuff go, because when you've allowed things to creep in a relationship, you might not have the liberty to call somebody quickly. You understand? So that's why it's better to keep the airwaves clear, and understand that it's not always about who is right and who is wrong in a situation. Sometimes it's about, I need people, I need connections, which is part of the title of this. Everything is energy, and we're all connected. You can say, I don't need anybody, I'm going to cut myself off. Well, you're going to suffer for it. And we all have different ideas of connection. It just occurred to me this week, I was reading about introverts, and I thought, I think I'm kind of an introvert, and I never thought of it before because I've never had stage fright. I'm very comfortable doing this, but this isn't the real world. I mean, it's the real world, but it's not the real world 24 hours a day. I can't, like, if somebody starts a conversation with me, I can't say, BJ, could you bring me a microphone, please? And, like, I'm comfortable with it. No, that's not the way conversations work. And sometimes I'm like, no, I'm up talking. That means y'all shut up and I talk. Well, that's not the way. That's not the way real communication is. This I'm totally used to. When somebody says they're afraid to get up in front of people, I'm like, what are you? I mean, if I've ever felt it, I'm not aware of it. I also know what it's like to not have any idea what to say to somebody. and I'm like, I'm trying to make small talk, and I know I'm coming across as detached, but it's just because I don't have these verbal skills. If you'll sit in a pew and put me behind the pulpit, I can talk all day long. I can go for 12 hours straight. But I don't know, and I'm not just copping out. I'm saying it just occurred to me, like, maybe I am a little introverted. And I think maybe those of you that, what? Maybe those of you that know me kind of are, you're like, yeah, you're just figuring that out? Like, well.
Yeah. We didn't know you are.
But thank you for not taking it personally. It's just like, I grew up in a very quiet household with no siblings, no competitive. I never had to compete for attention. And, you can't pass on what was not given to you. So, I've found ways to compensate. And it has served me because I've been doing this all of my life. Anyway, what's that got to do with you? You have to find out how you communicate and be sensitive to words and be vulnerable without taking stuff personally. You hear me? It's the hardest thing in the world. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. I'm going to be vulnerable, but I'm not going to take it personally. How? How can you do that? I don't know. I'm just saying something about it feels true, or at least mostly true. So I'm going to leave it with this. Think about your thoughts. What Charles sent me this week, I'd seen that before, but it was a timely reminder. That's right. Because remembering something from the past very often is recreating it for the future. That's why people go around Mount Sinai for 40 years. Observing a thing a particular way sends that energy out, and then projecting into the future. You're creating your reality by your thoughts of the future. The only bit of instruction I can give you about it is you can't not think of negative things, but you can reframe how you look at them. Like, you can remember something hurtful that somebody said to you, but also not just wound yourself with it over and over again. You can say, all right, I heard what they said, and the part of it that feels true to me, I will observe, and the part that's not true, I will say this wasn't about me, it was about them. And honestly, I don't think there's ever a time that you get to that place that you're just that way now. I think every situation presents you with new challenges. When you think, oh, I didn't think this would get to me again, and then something does get to you. You're like, oh, well, I guess here's a thought, give us this day our daily bread. So, having said that, I send you a healing word. Did you get anything out of this today? All right. Charles, if you will play us the outro.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you'd like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishonthennow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
I'm speaking a healing word to you, a delivering word, a peace word, a life word. You're valuable without having to be perfect. And I say that you are learning as you go from glory to glory. I speak healing to your mind, to your soul, to your emotions, to your memories, to your thoughts, to every vibration that emits from you out of the heart of the issues of life. I bless your energy. And I say the energy that you put out into the universe is coming back to you in positive ways. In the name that's above every name. Peace. I'll see you next week, and I'll be on 11:11 tomorrow. All right? Peace.